Hey everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and I want to know if you are looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to get you through this weekend, because we have them. Today's list includes a romantasy by USA Today bestselling author, a space opera box set, time travel book, and a gas lamp mystery. And before we get to all of that, I want to thank some of our community members for helping out. We have editors Tim Fairman and Melody Friedenthal helped us with the reviews, and our reprints editor E.S. Foster, and Emma is here with us today. Hey, Emma.
Hey,
All right, so hit like and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of these videos. We also have a newsletter you can sign up for, link down below. And our third anthology is out, and the link to that is in the description box below as well. And also on October 1st, our fall submission cycle opens. So this is original fiction, not reprints. So that's not Emma's job, but other editors. And if you have original fiction, we pay 8 cents a word for science fiction, fantasy, and horror. So put that on your calendar. The submission period closes at the end of October, and everybody whose story is accepted not only gets their story published on MetaStellar, where everybody can read it for free, but we also include it in our annual anthology. So you go, guys. And we also include some of our reprints in our anthologies as well. And Emma's the person you want to talk to if you want for us to publish reprints of your short stories. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start talking books. And we're going to start with book number 5 on today's list and count down. Now, the way this works, because somebody asked in the comments where we get these books. So Amazon has a free list of free books that are science fiction and fantasy bestsellers. They don't make it easy to find, but we have a link to it below. And so every Friday morning, we look at the top 5 books on that list, and we read the first few chapters of each of the books because we don't have time to read all 5 books in time to do this article, but we can read the first few chapters and tell you kind of at a first glance what the book is like. Do we like it? And are we going to stick with it this weekend? So book number 5 on today's list is one that I began reading called Ghost Talker by Byrd Nash. And here's the cover so you know what it looks like. It's the first of 6 books in the Madame Chalamet Ghost Mysteries, a gas lamp fantasy series. The other books are $3 to $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want, kind of a Netflix for books. So with these books, you're going to have to pay cash if you like the first one. That's why they make these books free, so that people will read the other books in the series. They do not stay free for long. It's a short promotional period. So grab this book while it's still free if you want to check it out. So this is what the book's about. It is kind of like a Sherlock Holmes kind of story, but the main character is a woman and she can talk to ghosts. So Eleanor, also known as Madame Chalamet, starts the book with eating a very nice dinner at a very fancy restaurant in the most luxurious hotel in the city when she's interrupted by a police officer. There's a dead body she needs to look at immediately because there's a duke who's interested in the victim. And when the royals get involved, everybody hurries up to get stuff done. So he was a little bit rude. He interrupted her dinner. So she finishes the dinner. She's super polite and very formal. Then she goes up to her room. She gets some of her equipment. And then she takes a horse-drawn carriage through the city to the morgue. And yeah, I was totally getting Sherlock Holmes vibes all throughout here. The only thing missing is a Dr. Watson. She's a very fastidious woman, very proper, independently wealthy. She doesn't have to raise ghosts for money. She does it because I guess it's a hobby. But anyway, so she's sarcastic. She doesn't take any guff from anybody. And so she walks into the morgue and she finds that the police and the Duke are there and they have another psychic there. And she doesn't like this other psychic. She thinks that the other psychic is a fraud, but the other psychic is very successful in high society, and people pay her to talk to the dead. And the other woman is extremely dramatic. And so Eleanor has taken mental notes, for future reference. Like, how does she do that? So the other woman holds a seance, and it's like really like emotional and powerful. Eleanor herself is creeped out, and she's starting to wonder maybe this woman does know something. And an apparition appears in the air in front of her. And then the Duke grabs at the apparition, and it turns out just to be gauze fabric. And the other medium is exposed as a fraud in front of all these witnesses, and they arrest her. Then it's Eleanor's turn, and she pulls out her tools, and she does her eye drops and all the other stuff that she has, and she brings the dead man's spirit back for real. And she's able to ask him some questions like, what's its name? And to show the last hour of its life. But this actually gets her in trouble because now she knows who the dead man is. And there's quite a bit of a political intrigue in here connected to the king. And the Duke can't just let her go. So I love this setting. I like Eleanor. I'm a little bit worried that she and the Duke are going to get together. Because if you know me, if you watched these before, you know I hate romance. But I do love the setting and the character. I have a very long car ride ahead of me this weekend. So I might read this book during my trip. Okay, next we have a book that Tim Fairman read for us. And it's called Stealing Time by K.J. Waters. And it's the first of 3 books in the Stealing Time series, which is a time travel adventure. The other 2 books are $5 and $6 each, but they are in Kindle Unlimited. So he says that the book opens with a young man suffering from a little bit of arrested development, and he's drunk, and he plans to record footage of an upcoming hurricane at a beach house. Emma, you've got a hurricane coming at you, right?
Yeah, we just passed one, like it passed over us a little bit ago, and thankfully we didn't lose power, but it's supposed to be like Cat 4,
What state are you in?
Florida.
Okay, so you should have been reading this book. All right, back to the book. Let's make that a little bit bigger for you guys again. Um, he ventures into the storm because he wants to get some footage, and he's kind of confronted by the storm. Meanwhile, Ronnie has just moved to Florida to be closer to her boyfriend, and she's celebrating her birthday as the hurricane approaches. And her boyfriend plans a romantic sleepover at the secure lab where he works. What? That's not very romantic. But he also has nefarious plans for Ronnie. Maybe he's involved in some weird science, Tim thinks. So this is supposed to be historical fiction where Ronnie is sent back to 18th century London via time travel. Maybe her boyfriend has something to do with that. And the prologue and the first chapter hint at parallel narratives focused on Ronnie's time in the past and on the hurricane in the present. So Tim says that his first impressions are positive. The book starts right out with a fast-paced, intriguing story about the man who goes into the dangerous storm, and then Ronnie being tricked by her boyfriend. And he says that the tone is conversational and humorous while setting up more sinister plans. So he's a sucker for time travel, he says. So he's going to be wandering into the eye of the storm with Ronnie, the protagonist. And yeah, again, check it out. And the other 2 books are in Kindle Unlimited. Next, we have Apollo's Raven by Linnea Tanner. The first of 4 books in the Curse of Clansmen and Kings, a romantic fantasy series. The other books are $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. And Emma read this for us. So Emma, what did you think of this book?
Yeah, I remember reading this one a little while ago. And I was pretty interested in it because it was historical fantasy. I was like, oh man, there's a shirtless guy on the cover, but maybe, maybe it won't totally focus on the whole romance bit. So this is set in Britannia during Roman occupation AD 24. And the story opens with Katrin. She is the princess, she's the daughter of the king. He is one of the kings who is designated power by their Roman conquerors. So her father has his place in the world, but it's still very overshadowed by this Roman occupation. And Princess Katrin, meanwhile, has been plagued by dreams of a bleeding skull-shaped moon. So she's constantly saying this. She doesn't know what it means, but she really wants to find out. She's also being trained to wield weapons in war, but her hope is to become a druidess, and it's something that her father forbids. But it's clear, however, that Katrin does have some sort of magical connection to that world because she has a huge black raven that follows her around, and it kind of acts like her physical and spiritual guide as she trains. And she's even actually able to see through the raven's perspective as it flies overhead. So it's like her eyes are the raven's eyes, and she can look and survey everything. So one day, while guarding the Britannic coast with her sister, Katrin and the Raven spot, and they spot this fleet of warships that are appearing along the horizon. Her half-brother, Marek, who was banished several years ago, he has returned for vengeance. So this guy is coming, and because she has the Raven's point of view, she's able to look and see her half-brother and think, oh boy, this guy is going to come back and things are going to go horribly wrong. So just before Katrin can alert anyone, she's pulled through this magic portal. And this portal was kind of weird when I first read it because it was like she went through this portal, but she just automatically went back to the exact place that she was before. So it's like nothing actually happened. It's like she just went like that. And she immediately just standing in the same spot. So it's not clear what happened, but it's clear that there's magic at work. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is just a little glimpse of the magic that we're going to get the rest of the book. So nobody, including your sister, believes what she just went through, and they also don't believe that there's an actual fleet coming, but when she gets back with her sister and everyone else is coming out and they're looking around, they realize that a war fleet is in fact appearing along the coast. Unfortunately, it's the Romans, and they actually recognize Marek as king. So Marek is coming back, but it's also the Roman conquerors. So Katrin eventually discovers that she and Marek are two parts to this ancient curse that was cast by a druidess long ago. And now that she's been trying to wield a blade, Catherine needs to figure out how to keep her family safe from herself and also from her half-brother. So I haven't read too much historical fantasy. I always thought it was interesting, but I haven't really gotten into the genre. I love the idea of a protagonist engaged in like this potentially self-fulfilling prophecy and trying to avoid it at all costs. So I like the idea of combining the ancient Celtic history and mythology. I thought it was like really cool. I don't really know much about Celtic mythology, so this was sort of like an intro almost, but I also enjoyed Katrin's character. She's very brave and she kind of sticks out from the rest of her family, but in a very relatable way. So it's clear she'll be doing a lot of self-exploration. She'll be finding her place as the series progresses, and I honestly think I might stick with it as long as there's not too much romance, later on, but I recommend giving the series a try.
All right, thanks. So the next book on our list, let me make that bigger for you guys. On paper, has absolutely everything that somebody would love. So this is Elemental Hall Nautica by Morgan Rice. Morgan Rice is a USA Today bestselling author. And this is a romantic fantasy. It's billed as epic fantasy. It seems to be a young adult book, and it's an academy book because it's set in a magical academy. So it hits a lot of tropes. Unfortunately, these are all tropes that I personally hate. So I'm really, really happy that Emma was reading this and not me. Oh, and it's the first of 5 books in the series, and the other books are $4 to $5 each, and they're not in Kindle Unlimited. So, Emma, what did you think of this book?
Honestly, with like the whole elemental magic thing, it's definitely something I've seen before, so I was a little interested to see if it was going to go in any different place than normal, but getting into the story, I was able to figure it out pretty quickly. So Begins with Sarah. She's this young woman. She's out diving for clams in the ocean. She and her family live on this remote island, and it seems like the whole fantasy world is kind of made up of all these different types of islands, and they all have different cultures that range across the island. And they're also cultures that are affected deeply by different types of elemental magic. So I was kind of interested in seeing where that went. So this culture that she belongs into, this island, it's water-based. So they spend a lot of time fishing, doing all that kind of like that kind of thing to earn a living. So after diving for all these clams, getting everything taken care of for her family, she gets to the boat only to get caught in a storm. But before the boat can capsize, Sarah touches some of the waves, almost like she's petting them, and the waves start to calm down, and soon the storm is completely gone. So it's kind of like I instantly thought of like Moana, with the waves. And I thought, oh, so it's kind of like that. But she returns to the shore, and her family is there waiting for her because they were really worried about her out there in the storm. And her mother introduces her to this mysterious man. He explains he's from a place called Elemental Hall, and it's a strange magic academy where students are trained in all the forms of elemental magic. So Sarah eventually realized somehow that he's the one who caused the storm. So it's basically like a test to see if she would make a good student. And at first, Sarah isn't too thrilled about randomly leaving home. She thinks, well, why would I just go off with this guy because he said that I could train at this academy? But it's either that or spend the rest of her life fishing and getting married to a man she doesn't know. So she's like, I'm not too thrilled about that. So she sets sail for the academy. She gets there, the same man greets her and tells her that she's late. Now, bear in mind, she at this point has just spent most of chapter two sailing through the ocean, like across the ocean in a boat that she made herself, trying to survive this world as these storms are coming in around her, and she barely manages to get to shore. She almost dies of starvation. And she gets to the shore, and the guy comes up and is like, hey, you're late, by the way, for your class, so you better get going. I thought, okay, nobody's gonna question that, but all right. So he says also that the classes have started weeks ago. So she's severely behind in her training. I'm like, then why were you out here saying, hey, why don't you join this academy if classes already started and she's just going to be behind the entire time? So Sarah has to hurry, find her classes and her own room, despite having no idea where to go or what to do because she's never been on this island before. So this is off to a great start. And on her way, she meets Arya, who explains that a challenge is about to take place, and it's something the students can't miss. So she's gonna have to forego everything else she's supposed to do and do this first. So Sarah and Arya reach the area where the challenge is being held, and without much thought, one of the teachers announces that Sarah will go first. She kind of doesn't like the fact that Sarah is late, that she's behind on her training, so she says, okay, we're just gonna throw you into the deep end, literally, because she's forced to dive into the water to complete whatever task is in store for her. So she does find out she can breathe underwater, which is a plus. So begins a battle against humanoid anglerfish, which from the descriptions was absolutely terrifying, and I never want to hear about it again because it just sounds awful. Because they're humanoid, but also they're still anglerfish. They're like part human, part anglerfish, and they're just hanging out down there in the water. So Sarah not only comes out of it alive, but it looks like she's got the makings of a good student at the academy because she handles the challenge very well, and she's also coming into her power a little bit more. So this book moves really fast. I made it about three chapters in, and already Sarah has learned about the academy. She travels across the ocean by boat, and she competes in her first challenge. So a lot of stuff is happening, a lot of plot is moving forward. But with that, I never really got to know the characters of the world, and much of the story is much more plot focused. So it's like I didn't get to know much about the characters, their motivations, the personalities. Like I didn't get to know much about the world other than there's elemental magic in this academy. So with it being so focused like that, I don't think I'll continue with this one.
All right. So before we go on to book number one, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. Here you go. And I want to thank Emma for helping out and editing all this. And there's her, she does book coaching and editing and stuff. And I have books up on Amazon, and I'm about to upload this one, but I've been saying that for a year. So yeah, don't hold your breath. Okay, so this book, which is number one on today's list, let me find it. There we go. Um, so so I love this. I love space operas, and I just read like several space opera books by Tanya Huff and Elizabeth Moon this past week. So I'm on a big space opera kick. And in addition to the Gas Lamp Fantasy, this is on my reading list for this weekend. So this is a complete box set of all 5 books in the Star Scavenger series. And this is the title is Star Scavenger, and the author is G.J. Ogden. And so it's a space opera. The books are normally $4 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. This author has been on our Free Friday list a couple of times. And he also has 7 other box sets up on Amazon called the G.J. Ogden Space Opera Sci-Fi box sets. So he's got a lot of space opera books. So if you love his writing style, there's a lot more where that came from. And the other box sets are priced between $1 and $10 each, and they are all in Kindle Unlimited. So if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription, you can read all these books for just $12 a month. Melody read this for us because she's a fan of hard sci-fi. And Emma, what did Melody think of this book? Or this box? Oh, the beginning of this box set.
Yeah, she said she was reading like the beginning of it. So she says it actually begins with a prologue. And it says raiders learn that an unnamed great ship, which apparently the phrase is used a lot, so it's kind of exasperating to Melody. She says it the ship has purged dozens of species. So one has happened to survive this great purge genocide type of thing. Apparently, it's humans. And they live on Earth and Mars in this union of outer portal worlds called, and together it's called a system 5118208. So humans are the only ones left. We've colonized Mars. And an AI called the Telescope has observed this purge, and it hopes that the lone remaining system will remain hidden from this great ship, whatever it is. So then we go to chapter 1. Chapter 1, we're introduced to the protagonist, Hudson Powell. He is a spacecraft pilot and a smuggle chaser. So Powell's this new recruit to this thing called the Relic Guardian Force, and now he's chasing a relic hunter through space. So apparently the smuggler has forgotten to pay his or her taxes. Also in that space crib is Logan Griff, Powell's trainer. He is a guy who likes to sneer at his student. He's always smoking cigarettes on their spaceship, which Melody says is probably not the best idea, you know? So Powell has decided that Griff, like others in the Relic Guardian Force, is corrupt. Maybe more so than the smugglers that they hunt. So Griff intends to ignore protocol and kill the smuggler without giving them a chance to surrender. But the smugglers do surrender, and Griff shoots them anyway. So the result is there are 3 dead smugglers, and Griff gets ownership of the smuggler's cargo. So we have the hero and the antagonist, according to Melody. So Hudson Powell concludes that he's made a serious career mistake, and despite the excitement of working in space, he kind of wants out of this deal. He lives on this world called Vivaldi 1. It's on this far side of a wormhole from Earth. So the first accidental human travelers, they traveled to this wormhole and they found an inhabitable planet on it, and also a crashed alien spaceship. So there aren't any aliens. They've been dead a long time, probably from that purge as well. But humans mined it for technological secrets, and soon more wormholes were found in Powell's time, and they passage through them, and it becomes more commonplace. So when I thought before that it was just Mars that humans have colonized, it's apparently much more, and the world is much more extensive. So this leads to smugglers hunting for alien tech and the RGF hunting for smugglers. And people like Griff and Chief Inspector Jane Walsh, they make profit from these findings. So it's clear that Hudson Powell is going to have a huge number of antagonists fighting a corrupt system. But continuing on, Melody says there's a lot of technobabble and exposition in chapter 2. So, you know, like those things where it's like all you read is just jargon and you don't really have any idea what's going on. But she says that despite the heavy exposition, she thinks this book has possibilities and she would likely read more of it.
Thanks. And I love the sound of it. So I'm definitely going to be checking it out. I've already downloaded it to my phone. Okay, so I would like to thank everybody who helped with the reviews, Tim, Melody, and Emma, and me, I guess. Remind people about the submission cycle and about the books that you can buy, and that they should subscribe and like and all these other things because we want more people to find out about cool free books. And we are going to go and we're going to see you next Friday. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting MetaStellar. Bye bye.
Bye.